Hi guys, 43 and 18. Edda. Bed 1? Yes.
The line begins to form outside the Northern Kentucky Emergency Shelter by mid-afternoon on winter days like this. Soon, the temperature will drop below freezing. By the time doors open at 6 p.m., all 75 beds will be claimed.
What's going on? What's in the front? No weapons, no alcohol, no nothing? Okay. Some fancy shoes. Love it. All right, you're good. Thank you.
Kim Webb oversees the shelter and its $426,000 yearly budget. She divides her time between tending to what she calls her guests and raising enough money to keep the shelter afloat. And, like other leaders of nonprofits around the country, she's becoming increasingly concerned about what she's hearing from donors, realizing that recent changes to the tax law could make it harder for them to give.
Is she at the door? Is she in a program badge still? Joe?
When I reached out to my donors, some of them were like, oh, I think I'll be fine, but wait, I didn't think about this. Or if I have a donor who had said to me, you know, you're going to get a lot of money from me this year, but know that I'm not going to be able to give it next year.
The reason centers on changes to what's known as the standard deduction. When Americans file their taxes, they have two choices: itemize or subtract an amount determined by the government from their overall taxable income. Those who itemize can subtract things like state and local taxes, mortgage interest payments, and charitable contributions from their overall earnings. So, in this example, under the old tax law, a married couple would itemize $16,000 over taking the $12,000 standard deduction. And the standard deduction has been relatively stable for decades. But the 2017 tax reform law, championed by President Donald Trump, nearly doubled it to $24,000 for married couples and $12,000 for individuals. The move was intended to give a tax cut to lower and middle income earners, but it also means millions of Americans who previously itemized will now see a bigger benefit with this standard deduction, and the fear is that less itemizing will mean less charitable giving. At least some Republicans were aware of the risk. Months before the law passed, Senator John Thune said fewer itemizers would mean millions would have a lot less incentive to give. And that goes for the shelter's donors as well.
I'm very concerned about not being able to give as much because of the changes in the tax laws. The tax law changes of things shouldn't be on the back of the people who are most needy, and that's what this is affecting.
I mean, giving to the shelter means money that I gave to another organization will be less probably this year than what I've done in the previous years. And I've now prioritized the shelter in my case, but I do have concerns of where everybody else is.
One estimate shows the number of households benefiting from charitable deductions dropping from 36 million in 2017 to just 15 million in 2018. And the year-end report from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project suggests the law already had an impact on giving in its first year. The total number of donors fell 4.5% from 2017, and though there was a slight uptick in the overall amount given, it was driven by fewer big-dollar benefactors. Experts are cautious not to draw too many conclusions just yet, and the law's supporters point to the overall increase in the total dollar amount given as proof tax reform is working. But what is clear is that most nonprofits can't rely on a small donor pool of only the wealthy.
For the small to mid-sized nonprofits, they're the ones that are suffering the most. And these are your local organizations that people rely upon. People in the community turn to for assistance. And so when the money is not coming in, that means that they're going to have to look at cutting some services.
For Webb Shelter, those services include an on-site nurse practitioner, something she says no other facility in the area has. It's made life a little better for people like Robert Besfeld. The 68-year-old returned home after a hospital stay to find he was evicted.
People are really down on homeless people, you know. And I mean, if places like this, it's like there's a lot of compassion. I mean, they care about you, you know, and it's like, I'm almost in tears already. This place has just been so good, it's unbelievable, you know.
But if donations drop by even $30,000, roughly 7% of her budget, Webb would need to cut one of her 2 full-time staff members. And less staff means less individuals she can house.
It may mean then I am going to look at what my capacity then has to be in the building. And I think that overall, that would be devastating to the organization, to the guests that we shelter, to the people that need it, and to our community.